Good morning, everyone. It is one of those great mornings. There's the hustle and bustle of life. And welcome to the Chill and Heal Show. We're here to fuel your mind, body, and soul with goodness. I am here with my good friend, Christie Peters, who is the president and national president of
State president.
State president.
The New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women.
Awesome. And you guys have had some amazing events throughout the year. And I'm a new member, even though I just renewed my membership, which was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit about who you are? And we were just at the RNC convention. It was just unbelievable.
It was, yeah. So I grew up in New Hampshire. I was just telling them outside that I spent my childhood roaming Spruce Street and Elm Street. My parents had a couple of small apartment buildings, and that's what we did for our family investment. I don't know, but we ran up and down the streets. And I was saying how different the streets are now. I can't imagine running my kids through those areas at this point.
I know. I actually, I went to Beach Street School when I was in first grade, and had an apartment, and your parents so they redid apartments and flipped them over, and then you kind of grow.
Exactly. My 16th birthday was changing a toilet on South Elm Street.
Oh my God. That's what it's really about. It's about real work, participating in life.
So I grew up in New Hampshire. I've always been involved in politics since I was 5 years old, and my parents took me to see Ronald Reagan on the State House lawn.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So they were Jimmy Carter voters, and just liked the man, hated his policies and what they did to the country, and became Republicans for the rest of their lives. My mom actually served 3 terms in the New Hampshire House of Representatives.
Amazing.
As a representative, and then she also was heavily involved in the Federation. So that's how I came up through politics, and I currently also serve as the district chair for SAU 39 that serves Amherst and Mount Vernon.
And what does that entail?
So we have 3 different school boards in SAU 39, Sauhegan, which is the board I serve on, Amherst and Mount Vernon, and the district chair oversees the 17 members of those 3 school boards.
Okay, wow. That's major. And your background is education.
It is, yep. So I have a degree in guidance counseling, actually, but ended up, really it would have been smarter to get a degree in elementary education or something, I don't know. So I've taught almost every grade level, many different subjects. I homeschooled my 4 children. I've taught
amazing
in public schools in Africa. I've done artist in residence in Hollis. Anywhere you could imagine teaching, I've probably tried it.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And so how old are your children?
My children are 19, 21, 22, and 24.
Wow. When I first met you, I just did not even, I'm thinking 30,
I love that.
This is so beautiful. And so you have been part of the Federation for how many years?
This is my 25th year.
That is so, and so I'm a newbie, a complete newbie. And I love it. And I've been to some of your events, and you have an extraordinary event that's very close to my heart. Can you share a little bit about that? I love Riley Gaines.
Sure, yeah. So last year we started to take a stand on the protection of women and girls, especially in sports, in their locker rooms, in private spaces, that they not have to compete or and be in those areas with women who are not biological women. And what got our attention first was when Chris Pappas and Annie Custer didn't sign on to what we consider to be really common sense legislation. And so we have pushed that issue wherever we go. Back in January at the Republican State Committee meeting, we put in a resolution regarding the protection of women and girls in sports that was unanimously passed. I don't remember when we've unanimously done anything. And so we followed House Bill 1205, which the governor signed last week, protecting the opportunities of women and girls in sports. And as part of that, we worked really hard to bring Riley Gaines to New Hampshire. Riley Gaines is a 12-time U.S. champion swimmer for the women's division. And when she went to compete in one of these races, she ended up tying for first with a person called Leah Thomas, who was not a biological female. It was, in fact, a biological male. And she was told that only one person could receive the honor of being first and could receive the medal, and that the committee had decided to let Leah Thomas be that person. And she could
That's insane.
She could have her picture with the medal, and then it would be given to the proper owner of it, this biological male.
And so what is the purpose of having girls in boys' sports if we're not really going to align with biological girls and biological boys? I mean, it's just insane. So I'm just grateful that the governor signed that and everyone that worked on that bill. And I can't even imagine. I have friends that are state reps, Will Infantile, Larry. There's so many great people out there working so hard. And it's really, really hard, because one or two words can, change things, and then people won't jump on the bill. So kudos to protecting girls' rights and women's rights.
Yeah, and so much work went behind the scenes into that. Even our legislative chair of the Federation, Louise Andrus, many people in her community came together with her to help her draft legislation for that. Some really good reps got on board. When it moved to the Senate, there were some great senators who worked on that. It really was an all hands on deck effort. And even, that was apparently a weighty decision for the governor to sign that. So we're so grateful to everyone who called him, reached out, and encouraged him to do the right thing and sign that bill.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. Your voice matters. It really, really does. The phone calls, the showing up at the alderman meetings, the showing up at the State House. I've seen you up at the State House a few times where, I'm actually a shy person. So for me to go and testify, I mean, it's like I'm really passionate about certain things, and it gets easier once you do it once or twice. It really, really does. And that's why I just encourage you to, maybe it's an email, sending it to your state rep, your senator, the governor. So
yeah, that's
your voice matters.
That's one of those things that makes the Federation so important. Is going alone is terrifying, but going with a group of 10 or 20 like-minded people, and you don't even all have to speak. Some can just sign. There's a way to sign in when you're there. They have made it that you can now sign in online, your preference or whatever. It doesn't have the same meaning as filling the room with people who support one way or the other. So it really does in New Hampshire matter if you show up.
It really, really does. And it is great to hear everyone's perspective, even if we don't agree. There was a professor that was against a bail reform, and I was just pretty appalled at, I'm going to have to cut that little clip up and share that one day, because it's just, some things are just, we can agree to disagree, and I feel like there's just some things are just not appropriate, and child exploitation is just not appropriate, and we need complete law and order when it comes to doing what's right. So anyways, I just think it's really, really important for people to show up. And so I'm coming. We have a bunch of people that are coming to your amazing, I don't know everyone that's going, but filling the room at the
Atkinson Country Club.
Yes.
Yep, we're filling up fast. We still have some tickets available through tomorrow, Friday.
Okay. So tomorrow is the last day, because this is a sit-down dinner with speakers. I know Joe Kelly Lavasser is going to speak.
Yes, we have several who have sponsored in that way. And
in tables, which is so great. And it's coming together, and there's so much joy in the room. Whenever, I saw, was it the Lilac Luncheon? Oh my gosh, it was packed, it was beautiful. I mean, you guys really bring it.
Yeah, that was a really unique experience for the Federation. One of a handful in the last 25 years that stand out as just a great place to be for those few hours.
So it's pretty easy to sign up for the Federation. And what does it exactly entail? Even though I'm still a newbie.
So the Federation was, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but back in the 1920s, right? We all know that women got the right to vote, and we had been very active in the country already, working to see people elected, but we started to want a little bit more. And so Marion Martin was a woman from Maine who went to work with the RNC to run sort of a women's coalition. I think she even served as co-chair of the RNC back in the 30s. And so they put this women's coalition together. And they found that the women were not getting the same opportunities as the men. So how far does this whole thing go back, right? We're still fighting the same battle for opportunities. And so after a few years of trying to do it this way, Marion and a few others got together and decided they were going to start an organization just for Republican women. And that's how the National Federation of Republican Women came to be. In 1944, the New Hampshire Federation was formed. It was the wife of a governor at the time who saw the need to bring it here, and we've been hanging around now for 80 years.
That's amazing, 80 years.
Yeah, and so you think of, we exist on 3 levels. So there's the National Federation, and then there's the State Federation, so New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women, and then there are 8 local clubs across the state, with a couple more maybe in the works. We've been approached recently by people who would like to see something maybe in Claremont and maybe something sort of toward the northern end of the seacoast area. So we'll see what happens with those, but we're always welcome to join in new members. It just takes 10 women to start a new club.
Oh, that's great. And so there's Salem.
Yes, so there's a club in Salem, Nashua, there's one in Souhegan Valley, which is Amherst, Mount Vernon sort of area, Manchester, the Lakes region, the North Country, out in Keene, and then also there is a Seacoast Club that is currently serving a very broad area. We'd love to potentially make that sort of a more northern and southern option, but we'll see.
That sounds wonderful. And so with that, I mean, you are doing so many different things. So I'm so grateful that you're here today. I just saw you at the Right of Center, you know, with speakers, and I saw we were out in RNC. I mean, you are on the move, and then there's this other part that I didn't know about you, that you are finishing up your studies to be a biblical counselor.
Yeah, so I just got my master's degree in counseling. Well, I walked, and I have about
amazing.
12 hours of practicum left to finish the whole thing and the certification for that. So it's exciting to be almost completed with that. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that. I just, we had a situation in our family where we saw just a huge lack of counseling that was good for women and girls, especially experiencing trauma. And we have so much of that happening.
There's so much trauma, and trauma is different for every single person. So it might be different, like what I think is trauma might be different for someone else's trauma. So it is a personal thing, trauma, and we need to address it.
Yeah.
And heal.
Yeah, and it was so difficult to find anyone when we needed that resource. And then I spent some time with a traveling speech and debate league, helping them develop a safety policy to protect all the students, girls and boys, but against any issues with abuse, neglect. And then, of course, we branched out to actual safety, like please don't eat peanuts around people who are allergic, and some of those issues. But
little extra kindness.
But that really opened my eyes to the need is much greater than I even thought. So see what happens in the future.
I know. Well, it's you know, mental health, we're at a crisis. You know, we've all been dealing with everything that has gone on with COVID for the past 4 years, and it's just, the isolation was horrible, all the mask wearing, and we know that the masks didn't work. The isolation was the worst thing for us, and so we need to do better. Now that we know isolation is not healthy for any of us, you know, and protect the vulnerable when someone's sick, but doesn't mean all of us need to stay home and isolate, but because that's not good for our well-being, and we need to connect. And that's part of why I started my show, is we need to connect, we need to talk about the hard topics, but gently, but straight up talk, you know? And we all go through things, and you know, it's just, and I want to jump over to, you know, Republican, Democrat. Like for me, I'm like, feel like this is a wave, like things are changing. It's a red, white, and blue wave, because we just all want good change. We want transparency and accountability. So, and I feel like I'm a Republican, I'm a registered Republican, but I've always been like in the middle, you know? And to me, I believe, you know, freedom to be you, freedom to be me, kindness and everything, but complete transparency. And that's where it gets a little confusing. So I think that we need, I think our mental health will be better if there was more transparency in our government, in our elected officials, in all of us, you know, just being straight up like, hey, that hurt my feelings, or whatever it is. Sometimes we have to have those conversations, but I just believe that accountability and transparency is really important. And me being a Republican doesn't mean I'm not going to talk to, I mean, some of my good friends are Democrats, but I also say that the party's been hijacked. So it's like, what are we standing up for, and what are our values, and what are the values of the New Hampshire Federation? You know, when we break it down, because someone might be like, well, I'm not a Republican, you know, so maybe I don't want to join that club. Like, what does it mean to be a federation? I mean, for me, I'm like about the truth, accountability. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, I believe in education, you know, good education. So, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like hard because I don't want, we don't all want to be put in boxes, but we want to align with our values. So that's what I'm trying to share is, like, I'm a pro girl, like, but I've never been like, girls' rights, but now I'm like, girls' rights. Does that make any sense? I felt like I had all these rights, and then all of a sudden these things are happening where men can go in women's locker rooms, you know, taking away Riley Gaines to be on the top pedestal. It's not a pedestal, but, you know, top, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is just wrong, and we can't stand back and be silent anymore. And so that's where I feel like you're women of, like, you're the courage, you know, to speak up.
And I don't think that we're not looking for women to be pushed forward. We're just looking to have the basic dignity and equality rights that belong to us as women. So maybe that's a difference. Just going back a little bit, I think whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent in New Hampshire, we agree on 90 or 95% of what the problems are.
Yep.
We know what they are.
Yes.
It's the solutions that we disagree on. And I think that a lot of times emotion and rhetoric gets attached to our feelings about the solutions, and we're unable then to work together to find collaborative solutions. And some of the things that we struggle with, I think we could, if we put down our weapons and listen to each other, we could come to the right solutions.
I totally agree. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I always say, hey, come to the round table, put everything on the table, let's talk about it, and, you know, figure it out. You know, to me, the back and forth and everything, it's just awful. It's just not nice, and it just doesn't.
So that said, as an organization, we align ourselves around the values of the Republican platform, and you were out there, you were a delegate, so you voted on the new 16-page platform.
Well, I didn't necessarily, well, I did, but not.
Not that it was your personal platform.
Yeah, it wasn't my personal platform.
But you had the
Lily
opportunity
and Steve
to.
Definite. Yes, and yes, we did vote on it.
To confirm it.
Yes, confirm it.
So that's kind of a neat thing, and it'll be interesting to see if that helps people. Our old platform was very long and very specific, and I know some people did prefer that specificity. I don't think the new platform keeps us from having any of the same beliefs that we've had, but it does make it a little bit easier to get your arms around and to grasp, and hopefully more people will be reading the platform. So the Federation of Republican Women, we unite around that platform and the planks in it. And so we do ask for people to join and be members of our organization, that they would be registered Republicans. That said, we are about educating. So we're about three things. We want to see Republican women elected to office. You know, about 3 or 4 years ago, I actually said to someone, I'm not sure we still need this. I'm not sure we still need a Republican women's organization. Like, we've come so far in this country. Women can do anything. They can be elected. We have strong women legislators. If you haven't gotten out there to meet yours, please do. We've got some great women serving.
Amazing women serving.
I did know there's a disparity in fundraising. It can be much more difficult for a Republican woman to raise funds than a man. I don't even have theories about why that is. I just have experienced that anecdotally.
Okay.
So one of the things we do is to, like with the Donald Trump luncheon that we had last year, we try to put some money aside to support members who invested in the Federation or
Yeah.
see what the vision of what we're doing in a financial way after their primary. When it comes to endorsing after the primary, we'll endorse our members who make it through. Generally, there is a cutoff date. You should have joined maybe before filing or something.
Yes,
but,
totally.
But, you know, we look at that every time to see what's in the best interest of New Hampshire and Republican women in New Hampshire. So
Yeah.
we'll be looking at that again very shortly and get that ready to go for this fall. We don't take a position before the primary. We want everybody to get to run their race without our interference. But September 11th, we'll have opinions.
I love it.
So electing women is our first thing. The next
Okay.
thing is educating women on what the Republican Party stands for, how to go testify. So I'll come with you if anyone wants to try, and I'll help you write your 1 or 2 minutes of comments. And
I love
we do
that.
letters to the editor. We're working on some editorials even. That's something we used to do. Press has changed phenomenally in the last 5 or 10 years. It's hard to almost find someone who reads a print newspaper every day. We get a lot of our news online and not even necessarily through news sources. We're reading somebody's Facebook post. So when do you speak? How do you speak? We're learning and we're always sharing that. Part of having Riley Gaines come is to educate our people on, hey, here's a thing that happened to a regular woman. This was not a political woman. This was just a woman who was, finishing her college and starting her life, and she loved to swim. But when her win was overshadowed by someone who really shouldn't have had the opportunity to compete there, she found a voice, and I think that happens to many women.
Yeah.
And that's where you see them suddenly becoming politically active because something isn't fair, isn't right.
Right.
And so we're a place where they can be educated on the solutions of the Republican Party, and they can find like-minded women and collaborate our ideas to go out and do things. And then the last thing is we want to empower women.
Yes.
And so a lot of times the left wants to own that they empower women, they're the party of women. When you really look at the policies, what allows women to own businesses, what allows women to go achieve their dreams, it really is freedom. And even I think back to the people who put Title IX in place, how confused they would be at the thought that, originally that had sports implications. We wanted women to be able to compete fairly on an even playing field. So we made all these rules so that women compete against women. And now we've just said, instead of the women trying to compete in the man's world, we're going to let the men compete in the women's world.
Yeah.
So
How
crazy
is that?
times.
How is that fair?
It's crazy.
It's crazy times, and but people are speaking up, and they're amazing people like you, Christy. Thank you so much. I met you. What was it, about a year ago?
At least at Donald Trump. And I think we had heard of you quite a bit before that, but we hadn't quite connected.
And it's really nice to be around like-minded people, and when you get to know everyone and how kind they are. Oh my gosh, you're so amazing and so kind.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
You too.
It's so nice. And it is hard. It is hard speaking up sometimes. It's your stomach rumbles, the heaviness, you might stutter. But it's really, really important, and don't give up. Your voice matters, and right now, we have to speak up. Now is the time. If we don't speak up, it's not good.
Sometimes people are afraid to speak up if they know they're in the minority and they know that their message isn't going to resonate and it isn't maybe going to be well received by the majority. And I think I told you recently that we had that situation a while back with the school board last year, and it's sort of a test pilot across the country of bringing in different books that may or may not be appropriate for the population of the school. And we had that sort of a book in our school library for the high school that was challenged by a parent. And my problem with the book was that there were graphic depictions of sexual activity that were not appropriate for half of the student population, and that was by the standards of the ALA. And yet the ALA is pushing this book, they're giving it awards, they're promoting it as though it would be good for students. And so we ended up taking it all the way to a full appeals hearing, And I knew going into it that I was the only one that would speak against that because, there's fear of hurting people's feelings. And now I'm the nicest person in the world, and I hate to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah, you are really so nice.
But sometimes truth does sting.
Yes.
And so, my goal is always to deliver truth in the kindest, most gentle, respectful way possible. But I felt that for those people in the town who did think that it wasn't appropriate to make comic book illustrations of how-tos of different types of sexual activity and put that in a library accessible to 13, 14-year-olds, that was worth speaking up on that. Even knowing going into it that there were people who would not like me. So, some were calling me a fascist. I heard that I should never be allowed to run for school board again. And I think we need to tone down the rhetoric. It's okay to gently and respectfully share an opinion or share truth.
Yeah, and actually when we're not sharing the truth, we're not being a good girlfriend, or we're not being, it's so important. It's just really, really important to speak the truth, because
Just don't forget the love.
Yeah, truth with kindness. That is the best way to deliver it. And sometimes we have to feel uncomfortable to make good changes for the better. And that's just how it is. But we need to get back to our roots of just communicating, handshaking, respectfully agreeing to disagree, good conversation to make those changes. And I so appreciate you. And where can they get tickets?
Get tickets, join anything, find out more about us. Our website is NHFRW.org.
I love it. And I will be there, and I'm going to have some friends there. And you know what? I can't say enough how important your voice matters. So please, if something doesn't work for you, if something is moving you, you've got to speak up. And if you're not sure how to, reach out to Christie. She is so welcoming. And you know what? Real men chill, real women chill. And it's time to chill, be real about what we need to talk about to overcome things. And until next time, stay chill, and I will see you next time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye, guys.